right, let's go into this extremely complicated idea, Genesis chapter 1, and see what it says. And is it contradicted, refuted by Genesis chapter 2? So far, if you read what it says, you're not going to have a problem with Genesis chapter 2. Well, here's the day-age theory refuted. Many people think that the 6 creation days, if they're paying attention to the Bible at all, and don't want to throw out their religion, which is not true Christian religion, they say, well, okay, these words, day, is many ages, many millions or billions of years, and evolution, so they can support the two. They can straddle the fence on both philosophies, which contradict one another. Anyway, then God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. Well, the problem with this is, how would man interpret this word day when it has an ordinal adjective, first, and has an evening and a morning? What else are you going to think? It's a 24-hour day as far as my perspective is concerned. And if there's supposed to be something else in there, why didn't God put it in there? God didn't put anything else in there. It's a literal 24-hour day. Successive days in Hebrew with an ordinal adjective and an evening and a morning is a solar 24-hour day, even though the sun wasn't there. God can do stuff. He's a creator. He did it first. 24-hour days, sun without a sun, by creating the light. So there was light, and it was literal 24-hour days. Nothing different. Otherwise, how would you understand it if God wrote it in some kind of a language and had an imaginary meanings in it, or some mysterious meanings that you wouldn't know? So how is God going to make you responsible for reading the Bible if you wouldn't know it in the first place? In spite of popular opinion, the word day, yom, cannot be taken here as age or some other long period of time. The word day, yom, in the Hebrew Old Testament always means a literal 24-hour day, when accompanied with an ordinal adjective meaning first, second, third, and so on. Or if you say a number, like 2 days, 4 days, 5 days, and you put it in the framework of that, what day of the month is it? The second day of the month. That's a 24-hour day. And always means a literal 24-hour day when it contains an evening and a morning. Otherwise, what would an evening mean if the day is billions of years old? 500 million? James Stembaugh, he says, the word yom, either a singular or plural, is used with the number 359 times outside of Genesis 1. There are 4 prominent ways in which yom could be combined with a number to bring forth a certain significance, and we read this the last time. And each time it's a literal 24-hour day, and how it appears. Oops. Yom, in other words. We looked at this. There are other words in the Bible that are accompanying yom. There are other words which are often symptomatically related with yom: morning, evening, night, light, and darkness. The literal 24-hour day, we looked at that. Plural, the plural yom, days, never refers to more than thousands of years. So yom in numbers. It appears that yom was part of a variety of formulae, some of which could denote a long time. The plural use of yom is the communicator of long time. This does not contradict the previous sections, because in the illustrations that follow, yom stands in a syntagmatic contextual relationship that is different from the ones already discussed. The singular use of yom tends to denote a short time. Once this is examined, the interpreter should be able to define contexts in which yom would clearly communicate longer lengths of time. It would appear from the historical genre used in the Old Testament that yom in the plural tends to be part of a formula communicating a specific length of time. Gershon Bryn observes that yom is used for naming eras in biblical times, the day of the Lord, and so on. This kind of formula has personal name or title attached to the era. Examples of this can be seen in Genesis 5 and 10. The days of X, name of the patriarch. The names within the genealogies could be used to designate the era in which that person lived. This is also frequently observed in the book of Judges, where we read of the days of X, the name of the king or the judge, and the author states how long it lasted. This formula can be also found in the prophetic genre, following the same pattern with one observable exception. Micah 7:15 is the exception where instead of a name, this phrase is used, when you came out of Egypt. The reference points to the future, when God will show his power to the Gentile nations. So the reference to the days of signifies the period of the exodus from Egypt. It's defined as more than a day. The use of yom in the plural signifies the length of time. And the syntagmatic relationships within the context determines how long it is. There are occurrences of yom in the plural that appear to cover a period of thousands of years by using two Hebrew words for a great length of time. They are of old, days of old, quedam, and everlasting, olam. So, everlasting days. Now we know how long it is because it's the words accompanying that. That's what the word yom is accompanied by other words to define it more than a 24-hour day. When it's by itself, it's a 24-hour day, especially as an evening and a morning and an ordinal adjective. Isaiah 51:9 illustrates the first word as it says, awake, as in the days gone by, as in the generation of old. Actually, days gone by could be 24 days have gone by. The context is a metaphorical reference to God's work of creation, and this is the same kind of work which will be undertaken for his people. These same words also appear in Jeremiah 46:26, Micah 7:20, Psalms 44:1 to illustrate that humans had inhabited the earth for a long time, by then a period of some 3,000 years, according to Genesis 5 and 10, the genealogies. The second Hebrew word is often used as eternal. It too designates a long period of time when combined with the plural yom. These can be observed in Isaiah 63:11 and Amos 9:11. The Isaiah passage refers to the time of Moses, then his people called the days of old, the days of Moses and his people. Context will tell you it's more than a 24-hour day then. The prophet Amos points back to the days of David. In that day I will raise up the fallen booth of David and wall up its breaches. I will raise up its ruins and rebuild it as in the days of old. So the interpreter should conclude that the use of yom in the plural may signify a long period of time when specified by the context. This is also to be demonstrated by the use of two Hebrew words for a long time translated of old or everlasting. It should be noted, however, that the context is one of history, and when the writers used these words for a long time, they did so with an eye to human history that began in Genesis 1:26. So the observation can be made from the plural use of yom that the time covered is of the order of a few thousand years, not orders of magnitude larger. Therefore, it does not appear that the context of Genesis will allow the interpreter to fit what could possibly be billions of years evolution into the singular yom in the events of creation, as is alleged by some. So there you go. We belabored this because people are like little weasels. They squeak out of this, they squeak out of that. Yom in other words. We looked at morning and evening. They're combined. They in a morning and an evening, combined with yom 19 times outside of Genesis 1 as well. And we see with the occurrence of 24-hour day. Each occurrence of a 24-hour day is signified. This is true no matter what the literary genre or context might be. It should be further observed that when morning and evening occur together without yom, it always, without exception, designates a literal solar day, 24-hour day. So any combination of the words morning, evening, yom use their extra linguistic referential value to its fullest extent, pointing to the length of time which is normally associated with these words. The fundamental word and or the division of time according to the fixed natural alternation of day and night, on which are based all the other units of time, as well as the calendar. That's what man would understand. Something slightly different is encountered when one examines the use of the words light and darkness with yom. Light appears with yom 15 times outside of Genesis 1. In most cases it refers to the cycle of time with three observable exceptions. These three here. The context makes it clear that the figurative language used in these verses refers to some future time when God will demonstrate his power to man. Darkness is used in conjunction with yom 11 times beyond Genesis 1. Most of these are figurative, and the context will tell you exactly what it is. The Ecclesiastes passage uses darkness as a time of trouble. The prophetic days of darkness. And the prophetic passage uses eschatological language to denote some future time which is not literal 24-hour day. Doesn't have an evening and a morning, just says days of darkness. It must also be noted that these are very few uses of light and darkness with Yom. In the historical settings, the light is 3 and darkness is 1. What we're talking about is you can get this from the context with a normal reading. The average person is supposed to be able to get what this means. All right, let's move on to the next section. Exodus 20:8-11 refers to 24-hour creation days. So this goes specifically to Genesis 1 and corroborates it. The word day in the certain creation account in Genesis is the same translated day, the same word, Yom, in Exodus 20:8-11. Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. What do you think that is? 24-hour day. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do your work. Now, if that word Yom there is more than 24 hours, it means millions of years, then the 7th day of your existence, you rest forever. Really? For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them. But he rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the 7th day and made it holy. So you're supposed to rest, not do any work for that 7th day. So these are 6 literal days. What are they? 24-hour days, because if you're supposed to rest the 7th day the same length of the days of the first 6, it can't be more than 24 hours, right? Wouldn't make sense. These verses in Exodus confirm the literal 24-hour day time period of creation. Otherwise, the understanding of the 4th commandment quoted above could not be for Jews to rest for a day, but for millions of years. We're not going to live millions of years at this time. Furthermore, at the conclusion of each day's creation is a statement the same or similar to, then there was evening and morning in the first day, indicating a literal 24-hour day with an evening and a morning. I don't need to belabor this, but there are thousands of people who think these 6 days coincide with evolution, and each day is billions of years long. So the day equals age theory contradicts geological age theory, which it falsely attempts to support, by the way. So the geological theory of ages, the accepted order of fossils in the rocks, does not coincide with the sequence of the Genesis 1 narrative anyway, if the days are to be taken as ages. Let's give you that for a second. The Genesis account has the following creation sequence. Heavens, space and earth in its formless stage. Light, firmament, expanse, the heavenly space above the earth. Dry ground and seas, plant life, stars and planets, day and night, water, animals and fish and birds, land animals, and Adam and Eve. That's the sequence. Well, that's not the way the geological age theory provides for to support evolution. The day age theory would not enable life on earth to survive. A repetitive phrase given again and again in the creation account in Scripture is evening and the morning. So creation days are literal 24-hour days. The word Yom is used in the Hebrew, and unless there is a specific contextual arrangement, which we just discussed, it also always means a literal day. The reason the days of creation had to be literal is because of the interrelationship of life. Everybody ignores this. How do plants, insect, animal life, and non-living creatures of nature, such as light, rain, air, and so on, are interdependent upon one another, such that they need to be in creation at the same time for one another to survive? You got food, you got air, you got light, you got rain, you got water, you got all these plants, insects, animal lives, and non-living elements of nature, such as light, rain, and air. They're interdependent upon one another. Dr. Boss says, it was on day number 3 that God created the botanical life forms. It was not until day number 4 that God created the stellar heavens. So if these days were millions of years apart, you got nothing. The sun and the moon to create the ability for photosynthesis. How do plants survive without it? If the earth were enshrouded in a cloud of darkness for millions and billions of years, where's the plants? How do they survive? There would not have been the ability for photosynthesis until the sun and more of the stellar heavens were visible and usable as light sources. In a matter of 48 hours, most of the botanical life forms would be dead. In a matter of 28 days, all of them would be dead without the ability designed by the Lord that the stellar bodies give for photosynthesis upon the earth. Even if that were not the case, it was not until day number 6 that God created the insects so that They're so very important to the procreation of most of the botanical life forms. There is such an interplay of the life forms that the days